I'm Eva Oh, and this is the Teakink podcast. I've been a dominatrix since 2011, and I would like to spill the tea on my life. Thank you for listening. Hello, welcome to the Teakink podcast. Today we have Miss Juni. A new professional dominatrix. Would you say that's where you're at?
Aspiring to be.
Aspiring professional dominatrix.
I've done it online a lot, but I want to go into doing it in real life.
Yes.
So I don't want to claim it yet.
Okay. Aspiring professional dominatrix. But we know each other because of these calls that I do, these mentoring calls. And we spoke about things on 2 different occasions now. But I thought it would be nice for us to bring that kind of a conversation to you, lucky people. But you have some questions written down, right? As well as some things that we've chatted about before. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you kind of came to this point. Why do you want to join us?
Oh, well, I think there are several reasons. But the main one is that I've just felt a pull towards it. And the more I've been in spaces around people like you, I have just I felt very inspired, and I felt very, I also want to do that. And also I can do that. Because I'm also known as Qtee Foxx. Is my nipple out? No, it's not.
Doesn't matter if it is.
It's a mic. I just felt something. I was like, ooh, is that? No.
Furry nipples.
Not my favorite. No, but what was I saying?
You are also known as Qtee Foxx.
Yeah. And so I have done a lot of custom videos, which have really leaned into different fetishes and kinks. And so I definitely have trained these skills. And then I've noticed now being in real life that you can use these to, make people, you can get some pretty interesting reactions out of people.
Okay. How long have you been seeing that these reactions are a thing? How long have you been making these videos or these customs?
The videos, I've been doing OnlyFans for 3 years now.
Okay.
Actually, a little bit longer. But so I did them a lot in the beginning. And so it was rough. I was doing my best, and I have learned a lot, but it was, there were things to be desired, from it.
You're doing great now.
Yeah. I'm very confident in my ability, and I have, coming here to London and visiting a lot, going to a lot of events. I've just noticed how that is something I've been able to harness and use with people and, during play. And I think it's especially there where I've been like, oh, this is kind of fun. I can get reactions out of people. And I also know that it can be quite meaningful to have someone get to, for many reasons, but especially the ones I connect with is like mommy play a lot or pup play, or especially when I've done stuff with other trans femmes. I've just been able to, it sounds so braggy, but I've had them like crying in my arms, feeling better about their bodies, feeling better about like their futures, and just like, hey, you're enough right now.
Why do you think that happens?
Especially with trans people, it's because I know what it's like myself. I can relate to it. And then I guess that I really just would have wanted someone to do that for me.
Okay.
And so just being able to give that experience to someone else feels very meaningful to me.
Okay.
And that is also like when I heard you talk about things like you have through work made connections you would never make otherwise. And I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, it makes you access people that maybe you don't normally socialize with. And therefore you get to see different points of view. But not only that, you get to see them in vulnerable, intimate spaces. And that introduces you to the possibility of human experience. And yeah, you find barriers falling down in yourself also, not only the people who you're working with, but it expands your perspective, I think. At least it has for me. And I feel very grateful for that.
Yeah, and I've actually I learned about like sissy play through this as well, and that is something for a lot of trans people can be a very touchy subject, because often the people who do practice sissy kinks tend to be straight cis men who don't have the perspective of what it's like to be queer, to be trans, which means they equate my experience to their experience of practicing their kink. So for a lot of trans people, I would say that we really do not like sissies, and just how they act and how they navigate spaces around us, because they tend to often be unwillingly extremely transphobic.
Okay.
But it was also through like kink I've like learned that, oh wow, I see the function of it. I see what purpose it gives someone. It can, help you deal with your own feelings about gender or expression. I've lost the word. You have expectations based on your gender, often as a man. So I have definitely learned a lot, and I've changed my way of looking at people.
Is this mostly through the people who are approaching you online?
Yeah, I mean, massively.
Okay.
That is where I've had interactions with people who practice this kink before, and it has been awful every time.
Okay.
It's usually just, it can be very insulting, I think, when I have put so much time, energy, and effort into, being my true identity and expressing my gender, and then having someone who dresses up to be like degraded come up to you and be like, oh, we're similar, right? We're the same. That is extremely insulting.
Yeah. How have you navigated those situations?
I've mostly shut it down.
Yeah.
I have just said I'm not interested in that. I don't know if it is something I would be comfortable engaging in, but now I understand it. I understand why the people enjoy it, and I don't view it as appropriation of transness, but as a valid expression and a valid kink to have.
I know that sometimes you've used opportunities like that, maybe not in the specific case of sissification, but around people's approaches towards you, that you've used them as educational sort of experiences.
I do that a lot.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? Like, what are the things that you like about it? Is there anything that you don't like about that role, that process?
I mean, I don't like doing it outside of work.
Okay.
But when I'm on the clock, I'm very fine with, just having conversations with people. And I mean, I wouldn't call it conversations, because it's very much me, hey, this is how it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, if someone talks back at me, it's a straight block.
Yeah.
I've had people just like, oh no, what do you mean you're discriminated towards? And I'm like, oh no, I'm not even having this conversation. But I think that especially more in the role as a pro-dom, but even when you do content creation, I mean, these people have invested money and energy and often have like maybe a crush on me. And then it's in their interest to listen to me.
Yeah. And
that means that I have, a huge opportunity to change their minds and make them listen. So I actually got into OnlyFans because I wanted to do trans activism.
Okay.
And then like, oh yeah, I made money. It's nice, it became my job. But my number one reason was because I want to do trans activism.
Okay. And what was your thinking around how that was going to look?
It's honestly just means that I will make porn and I will talk to people and I will be a fully fledged human. That's not just an
idea that somebody has that might be not holistic.
Because I get the opportunity to, the difference between like other sites for like porn, and OnlyFans is, of course, the interaction. Yeah. So I get to interact with the person, and I get to show that I am a person, I'm a human. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to me, it feels so silly saying that.
No, I think it's valid. It's valid. I think there's a lot of sectors of humanity that people are not ready to see, that people don't have access to, and to be able to be a representation of that in a fuller way can be very valuable for everybody. I think that's why I bother doing a lot of press and this kind of things, and the podcast also, because it's, and why, even though I know it gave you anxiety that I don't have so much of a format, but I like having a free sort of way of being, because I guess I like people to see the ways that I think and the ways that I'm not ready to think, my vulnerability, I guess, and my holistic sense of self. And I think that is valuable, that people understand there's a person behind this concept of what a sex worker is, or however, that they start to identify the reality of who we are. I think it's better for all of us. Yeah. And so recently, you've been thinking about taking those customs, that little pro-dom space, and moving it into real-time sessions?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you had any chances for that?
I haven't had anything that I've received payment for, because I'm from Sweden, and doing any type of in real life sex work there is incredibly unsafe because of the Nordic model. So, I mean, I've had the opportunity a couple of times, but I mean, if I ask someone for like even their phone number, they're going to be like, no. And so if you try to be like workplace reference, no. I mean, because I could just blackmail them, because they are committing a crime by getting a service from me.
Understood.
So it's just not possible to do it safely. So I have done it with people who I trust, and I have done a lot of practice sessions as if they were paid. But it's, I need to be out of Sweden.
Okay.
So I think I will most likely travel, and I will most likely do things in London.
Okay. Nice. And where are you at in this planning? So now you've got some real-time practice. You've done a call with me. We're here talking about your potential questions. Do you have any lists of questions for me? You want to bring out your list? I
mean, it's a pretty good segue. The first one, I do remember it's actually. But so talking about like fetishization and also like showing that we are people. How do you deal with if you are in a situation with during a session or maybe during dinner and a person says something extremely offensive?
I think it's similar to when you say that you have your OnlyFans clients and how they've established a relationship and they've invested their money and their time and they have this connection with you. You have a little bit more patience because they have been making that effort.
Yeah.
And it's also this thing where we were talking about earlier, where I'm accessing people who wouldn't normally be in my social circles. So I have to understand that also. They don't have the education that the people around me have had. So you bring a little bit more of a patience also because of the money that they're affording you in that time. And it depends on how far gone that sentence might be, I guess. Or if it's within play, sometimes you can understand because they're just in a whole different headspace.
Yeah.
So I think that if it's an extreme thing that I think they're very conscious of, I might need to address it immediately because I will just not be able to continue. Me personally, everybody's going to be different. If it's something that is slight and we're just having it as part of a larger conversation, maybe I will address it at a later point when I think that they are more malleable. If it's something in session and they're like crazed, I will definitely not address it then and there, unless it's a part of the play, unless I can address it, and I can make it kind of like hot and then it can like reprogram almost immediately.
Okay.
Yeah. So it really depends.
How would you do that?
So I think, I can't think of a specific example, but for example, I mean, it can be as, we'll just do a really banal thing rather than them maybe saying anything. Maybe they just grab me, in a way that I normally don't encourage any interaction with me unless it's invited. And people understand that pretty quickly, but sometimes they just lose it. And then they're just like, rah, you know? And then I think that if it's like a really hot moment between us, I think you can kind of like grab them and then look straight into them and say something like, do you think that that's the way that everything works here? Or something like this. You know, and if you say it in a hot way and you're like really close to them or something, I think that the possibility for them to like feel that that isn't my place. And okay, that's actually kind of hot. Then, you know, so it depends, I think, the layers of where people are at that point in time. But I think if we're going to
steal that one.
Yeah. If we're ever going to continue with people, we need to address the things that make us feel, off. Yeah. It just depends what the best course of action is for that to work to our benefit the most.
I'm going to steal that one straight up. That's an amazing sentence. I'm adding that to my little vocabulary.
Library. You must have quite a library.
I keep it here at all times. It's that one, and we'll have to see. I love that one as well.
Sometimes the silence also can be very useful. Like when they say something and they're looking for validation, you just don't say anything.
Yeah. No, but I've definitely experienced being a sub in that situation, like feeling like, oh, now I'm in trouble. I did something wrong. I mean, it can be exciting, but it can also be genuinely scary.
It's nice when they go together.
Yeah. No, that's the best part.
I'm being told off, but they're holding me so close and they're still intimate with me. So I'm like, I'm ready to listen, but what's happening right now? You know, it can be a really nice part of a scene.
But have you had people ever like talk back at that? Or do you feel like...
Sometimes they'll like try to rationalize. And then they're out of the play space already, you know, when they're living in that. Unless they're like really good bratty like energy, you know, and they can engage with their intellect at the same time, then that's a different type of play altogether. Then I have to be on my toes. But that doesn't happen that much. So
But I think it's interesting the thing you said as well about like you have to take into account that someone might be in subspace and they might not be aware. That is something definitely I will bring with me.
Yeah. People are there to kind of step into their vulnerability and let go. And so you get the base level of people, and that can be pretty ugly sometimes. But it's an honor also, you know, because then you can shift things in that space. Yeah.
I'm going to look at my second question.
Of course.
That's a great answer.
Thanks.
Well done.
Maybe I should make all guests bring a set of questions for me. It's quite nice, quite fun.
But so, I mean, it's not too far off. So, red flags.
Red flags. I think who I am has always been quite an open-minded person, for better or worse. And I think that means that I'm willing to take on a lot and to see where people might be coming from in order to understand that. But I've also taken that to an extreme where it's to my detriment.
Yeah.
But
that's a hard, difficult balance.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And it's like a constant thing that I need to do for myself. But if we're just going to talk about, like, if you're entering the industry and what these things can look like, I think that these red flags can come at different stages of the process. And let's just start from the very beginning. Say you want to receive an application. I think some of my things that I'm aware of are people who are trying to waste my time immediately. And it's usually people who write an extremely long email that will take me like 5 minutes to read. They're usually never going to book. People who are not ready to send you references or a deposit or commit to something within like 4 emails, I think is probably a max for me. That's probably at the very beginning. And then you also have to decide what works for you. If you're somebody who really wants 2 references before you session, that's your standard, you know? You don't need to comply by what other people, it's about what you feel works for you. And then say maybe you're in session. I usually, because everybody's coming in from a different place, I'm not going to have grand expectations, even if I give them, you can give them like a lay of the land, like some rules before they arrive, maybe. And some people will remember, some people won't. But I think I'll give them maybe 2 or 3 corrections before I think, okay, yeah, you're not going to get it and this is not going to work. Yeah. I personally don't like it when people are trying to argue with me, to argue me out of my needs. It's like, yeah, but maybe you can just like, isn't it nice when I touch you though first or something? It's just like, this is what I'm establishing as my needs from this scenario, and you're trying to push that boundary.
I feel like that is also, then is what you're looking for truly submission?
I think it's hard to say because maybe maybe some of those challenging people want to reach it, but they have a few blocks to push through before they get there. But they're not quite in a ripe space for it. You can maybe say it that way.
It's still a little bit too self-centered, maybe.
Maybe a lot of fear. Yeah. I think it's mostly fear that stops
Look at you
people.
being understanding.
Yeah, I know. But it doesn't mean that I should excuse it, even though I kind of get the process. So, but that's why I have that number for me. It's like, if I've done it 3 times, then I need to cut it. But that's easier said than done because sometimes you need that money. So it's like,
well,
yeah. Where are you on that for yourself as well, and not to be too hard on yourself if you're just going to have to take that cut, because it's just the reality of it sometimes. And I do believe that long term, it's better to drop the things that are going to give you that stress, and you can concentrate that on other things. That's easier said than done when you need that money,
Yeah, definitely.
And then I guess when things get really more in depth, more advanced, maybe you're creating long-term engagements with somebody. What can red flags look like then? It's the same stuff in that people are trying to push your boundaries, but it gets like more nuanced and more intricate. Like people who offer you like houses or stuff like that and dangle it and set like parameters around it and try to control you. Yeah, it depends how much you want to play that game, I guess. So all of that said, I think the red flags you kind of need to decide for yourself what they look like, and mine are usually around boundary pushing.
Yeah.
And not respecting my time and effort and the fact that I'm a professional. If you want a relationship, you need to go to an app. You can't find an ad and answer an ad and expect it to become no payment personal. That doesn't happen. Yeah.
I mean, once you're in the like client relationship, it's stuck there.
I keep it there.
Yeah.
Some people move it. I tried moving it at the beginning. It didn't work for me. So I just keep it there now.
I remember the I'm out of the headspace of paying you. I think you mentioned that in season 1. Yeah. I listened.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the time I tried.
Yeah. Did not work.
Didn't work because why didn't it work? Because I guess I relied on that money and I realized what I had done.
Did you feel like that was rude? Would you take that as
I took it as a devaluing of my effort and my skills. Yeah. And somebody not. Yeah.
Because I mean, so much goes into it. Like, it's not just you show up and you sit there and you...
And what would he give me? I guess the thing is that I liked our play, but I didn't love him as a person.
No, yeah.
And if
definitely not then.
Had I appreciated him more and had he brought more value to my life, maybe then I could have made a better transition. But I don't. Now I just have a rule.
Yeah.
And it's just easier that way for me.
Once a client, always a client.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just easier for me.
I get that. But then about the application, I wanted to ask, because you mentioned that if you write too much, where do you find the sweet spot? Because I also, if someone doesn't write barely at all, then I think that is maybe not. It
depends again on what you need. I think that if somebody writes points and it's clear and also mentions that this might be a bit long, but I just wanted to be clear. Just let me know if there's a better way to communicate. And then that's fine. It can be like 3 pages and I'll be like, okay, yeah, cool. You're specific. You're probably a fetishist. That's okay. But if it's just like no paragraphs,
yeah,
and just on and like how many characters are in this story? It's just like, this is not the time and the place, and we're probably not going to get along.
But then, I mean, when you get those messages, do you feel like it focuses a lot on the like, oh yeah, this is what I would want to do, rather than like, here's how we do it safely and here are my boundaries?
Most people cannot communicate like that latter, though. Most people can't do that. Most people are like, this is how I get off. And you're like, okay.
How do you get past that then? Because I mean, I know I have some questions I always like to use. But I mean, it's almost 10. That's a lot of questions. I think maybe with time I will be able to, you know.
I think it depends how you want to go about it also. Some people put 10 questions on their application. Some people, I have like 2. But it's a question about, it's a condensed thing. Tell me about why you are interested in me, because I want to see that they have some investment in me.
Yeah.
And a brief introduction of your kink, maybe even your vanilla self. So to see what their relationship is to their, yeah. And that's enough for me to get an understanding. And then I ask my specific stuff when they're in front of me also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you do that as part of the session.
I do that as part of the session. Yeah, because
you get through a lot in those 60 minutes.
I get through a lot. Yeah. I generally just do an hour, maybe 2, when it's sessions that are not with people who I have ongoing relationships with. But yeah, from the moment that they're in the door, the dynamic is there in some way. It might be more intense at the peak, but in general, there's always something, because it's a part of my personality anyway. So it's not an extra effort for me. Okay. It's fun.
Because you don't ever like, okay, now we're done. Now we are equals and you're about to leave.
When I'm moving people out of a session, I definitely change the tone and make it easier for them to leave the space. But I guess on an internal level, I think I'm quite into the dom headspace, just in the personality thing. And so it's not an effort for me.
But how do you manage that in like real life? Because I
suppress it.
You suppress it. Okay.
I am a fraction of what I would like to be. Yeah. And even then I hear all the time, oh, she was scary, or that was intimidating.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm trying to be friendly.
No, because I know that when I've like done dummy stuff overall, or I've maybe responded to an email, or I've, you know, gone through something, and then I just go out buying groceries. That cashier, they're about to have it. They're about to get it. I'll stare into their eyes and I'll be like, oh, thank you. Have a good day.
Lucky them.
But I become so intense. So I need to sometimes, you know, just...
Is that a problem though?
I think I can become quite calculated about it. I can be quite...
it's like a game.
Yeah, it becomes very much a game and I'm trying to win it. And in play space, that is very fun. And that makes me feel very powerful. And I love that, so of course. But, you know, you need to use it responsibly. Yeah,
I think that the outside world can be a bit of a playground also. Yeah. If it's a small interaction at a grocery store and it's a little thrill like between people, I don't see how that's harmful. I think if anything, it introduces a little bit more joy to a day, you know?
I mean, I've just had experiences where I call it break someone, and I mean that in a consensual way, but where they essentially just gone super subby for me in kind of public settings where it was kind of accidental, not on purpose, and that has not been good. It has not served me well.
Oh, like what happened?
No, it was just I turned a person on way too much and they stopped speaking. They went nonverbal. And we were with friends and it was like, it became weird. I
mean, it's fine. It happens.
Yeah. We learned from it.
It's a personal thing also, right? That one.
Their partner was there and they were not too happy about it.
Oh, I mean,
They are open, but maybe it was weird to see that happen.
People got to take responsibility for their own reactions too, though, you know? Yeah.
Well, we learn. But that was, I will say that was at the beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Yeah. I have so much power. And I'm like, accidentally using it on people.
For the first year that I realized that this was a thing in me, I went absolutely non-consensual with it. It was just like a drug that you finally got the hit of.
Very much.
Yeah. And it just went... And I was like slapping people, like my dates, without ever having negotiated it, like in public.
Yeah, that is not great.
And ordering them to do stuff. And some people have the personality where if you just say it with enough force, they'll do it, even though it's not necessarily good for them, you know?
Yeah, okay.
And so I guess over time, I've learned who are the ones that are stable enough to be that forceful with. Because, like you said, it can be at a detriment for everybody. But it's a really fun thing to have access to. Good luck with your first professional year.
Oh.
Well, at least now you know. Nobody told me.
It's also been annoying at times, I will say, because I've had dynamics where I've been supposed to like submit, and then I just felt like, oh my gosh, this person has no idea what they're doing. Yeah. And then it's ended up turning around.
Is this personal also?
Yeah.
No, I can't do that. Can you imagine in a professional context? Like in the dungeon I started working at, there was the tradition had just phased out. The tradition was you had to sub for 6 months professionally before you were able to be a pro dom.
What does subbing professionally mean? Like,
it means
how does that look?
Like, all right, so somebody comes in and say they want to do a spanking session on a professional sub, and it's just going to be a spanking session, but maybe they're not particularly, you know, maybe their spanks are super weak. Maybe they don't know how to bring you into the session, and you just have to act and be like, oh, this is awesome. That was amazing. Or, oh, it hurts so much. Or whatever, you know.
Did you do this?
I tried once.
Okay.
And I was horrified at how lame it felt. I'll come. But and so I just didn't bother anymore. I just thought, I can't do this. This just feels, you know, because when I got to do the dom stuff, I get to move people in a space. I get to say what I want to say. I get to correct them. And it felt natural. But the other thing felt like a really difficult acting exercise. And I'm not an actor. Yeah.
I think I probably had to practice that more with my content than you have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but the thing is you can end a scene and you're with other professionals. It's not like a client whose ego is going to be bruised.
Okay, yeah.
You have to be consistently on. And then later on you can be like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah, I would struggle with that, I will say.
Yeah. But like having it up for the camera, I guess, and then end scene, and then other people are acting too. It's a bit more palatable. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all of them.
Oh, you don't have to. Feel free to read it out.
Let's see. Oh, I just got a message. My session has been cancelled.
You had a session?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a session with a person in next week.
Oh.
Cancelled. Well. If anyone wants it, no, okay.
It happens.
Okay, I have written down. I'm gonna pick one. I mean, speaking about acting, and you said it feels natural for you to move in that space as a dom, but how I mean, especially when you do dinners and when you spend a lot of time with people, I mean, you're gonna run into people you're like, this is not it.
Not much to say.
And how do you deal with that, and how do you make sure that they are enjoying themselves, but how do you also like get through it? Because if the person isn't talking to you, like some people cannot hold a conversation.
True.
And it's just awkward to be around them.
Are they paying you for your time?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So then you're basically a paid entertainer, right? And the service is to host and to do all the things that you just said, make them feel comfortable and entertained. But how do we do that? I ask a lot of questions about them. I build a picture of who they are, so I have reference points. Maybe you have things that you are happy to talk about. Maybe you can tell them more about your work life or something that's quite unusual for people, and they like to hear about these things. Yeah. So I guess maybe you can find common points. Maybe you can be doing an activity as opposed to just sitting down for dinner, or so that it takes off of time. It's like, yeah. I mean, I don't want to liken it to anything in our personal lives because I don't know why one would be around anybody who couldn't satisfy them in their personal lives. I guess maybe it's kind of, this is a very bad analogy, but it's almost like you're meeting a young person and they haven't yet understood how to do all of these social things.
Okay, yeah.
And how are we going to teach them this capacity? And sometimes you can be really direct if you understand that they are people who can handle this. And you can be like, I'd love it if you would ask me more questions. It would make me feel like you are interested in me or something like this. You can help them.
Yeah. I mean, would that be too much if you were like, well, now it's your turn to ask me a question?
No. No, I think if you turn it into like a playful game, it can also be a thing.
Like that could work.
Yeah. You can also play silly games, It's like it doesn't have to just be conversation, I guess.
Go bowling. Have you done that? The clients?
No. Send them to the bathroom to do something with themselves or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, that type of.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, it could be a humiliation session for me if we take me bowling.
I'm weirdly good at bowling.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're good at many things. You seem very focused. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I haven't been bowling in a long time. So, no. I can do things like that don't require skill, and I'm happy to humiliate myself in front of friends. Yeah. Or even like karaoke for some reason. I'm not very good at it, but I can do it in front of anybody. I don't mind embarrassing myself with that.
Oh, I would be terrified. You would have to pay me a lot, honey, if you want to go karaoke-ing with me.
Okay. Don't go to Asia.
I don't know how we ended up here. I love it though. So how, like, arcade? Do you like it? No?
Arcades?
Going to the arcade as well?
Oh, yeah, I don't mind arcades, actually. Yeah, arcades are good. But I don't know if I've ever had a client who would be interested in that.
That would be funny. Well, how do you, so if you find someone you think are a good sub, they are good to be around, and you want to move them into more of a maybe long-term arrangement, how do you do that? How do you make sure you see the people you want to see more?
I guess it depends, like, and this is all professionally, right? Whether I think that they have the financial capacity for it.
Yeah, of course. Do you ask them about that ever?
Yeah, sometimes I'm fairly direct. I think if I'm unsure, I could say something like, I would love to have you around on a more consistent basis. Would you like to become a part of more of a monthly tribute? And then we can maybe see how we go with a session that's like guaranteed a month, and maybe with contact in between or something like that. You can make different options and offers and be quite transparent about it. Also, maybe you need time to think about it. Don't think that we have to do this immediately. Don't think we have to do it at all.
Okay.
It depends how ready people might be, whether it's financial or psychological or however.
But do you often keep correspondence in between, or are you
personally don't?
No, okay.
Yeah, but for the people who I know I would like to see again, I'll make an effort.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a customer service, whatever sort of management stuff, but it's fairly genuine for me. It's like, I would like to spend more time with this person, and so I will just make sure that they understand that that's an open possibility.
But then how do you, because you don't want that, of course, to seem like an invitation to you of course want to keep them in the headspace of, this is professional, this is not for personal. I'm thinking there could be a risk when you tell someone something like that it could be misinterpreted. So how do you avoid that?
Interpreted how? Like if I say that I want them to be around more often?
Yeah, for example.
The thing is, it is emotional as well, isn't it? Especially I get an emotional satisfaction, but it's a pretty heavy emotional thing for the client. A lot of the times they're not necessarily practicing in their private lives. You're the only focus for them. They're like release valve, for all of these desires that they don't get to practice elsewhere. It's a thing for them, and I think it can be somewhat unavoidable. But I guess it's how much you want to cater to that, and you can also draw the boundaries and say that, hey, this is like a professional arrangement. If you feel like they're getting too clingy, some of them will opt out of it. If you're in the sugar baby territory of things, the whole thing is about creating that illusion and that connection. So it depends. There's a range of what you are wanting to do and how you are going to.
Have you done sugar dating?
No, I haven't. I've had some arrangements that look like that, but with me as a job, where it was like it kind of melded the personal and the professional. But I've never been on those sites. I've never been approached by somebody saying, hey, can I meet you for a date for this much? Or would you like to have a month? It's always been my initiative rather than somebody else's. I wonder how that would go down. I know some doms who are on those sites. Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely been approached for that several times, but then people want me to sub, and I'm like...
Subbing?
Yeah. No, I mean, I love it, but not for...
Somebody who doesn't know how to spank.
Not for a man who's paying me. It's...
Okay.
No, it's just... I also don't... I feel like people who are looking for me to be a sugar baby often don't respect me enough. I don't feel like I feel like they often maybe don't respect my time, and they view it as a very like, I'm entitled to you because I've given you something. And for me, even if someone has given me a gift, you're not entitled to shit. So,
yeah, the gift is my existence.
Yeah, no, very much. And
I've had a couple of instances where clients come from that mentality, and I felt that they have a very like savior complex. Like they want to be available for business advice or to rescue me from my situation or something, and that doesn't really sit very well for me. And I can see how people who are able to play into that can do quite well out of it, but I don't feel like I need saving from anything.
I mean, have you ever had people who told you that they want to be exclusive, and you have like, I assume you wouldn't go along with it, but I've definitely had people who want to like pay for me to stop doing OnlyFans, so there will be the only one who will receive my...
Like, how much would they pay?
Not enough.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I'll take care of everything, but like, hey, I'm completely dependent on you then.
Yeah.
That's not...
Yeah.
I'm an independent woman. Come on.
I mean, I would consider like if they were to match it and then maybe 120, 150% of what I'm already earning, then I'd consider it. But then you'd also be, if they'd fall out, and then what are you going to go back to?
Exactly.
Yeah. So...
Try explaining that, gap in your resume.
Yeah. So I guess maybe thinking about that, they would have to maybe pay for at least 3 to 5 years of my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for 1 year. Just because if they drop out, then I'm going to lose that because I have to rebuild. So I don't know how many people could afford that.
But do you think you ever would seriously consider that?
If I liked somebody, if I could spend that much time with somebody, I would consider it. But I would want the money up front, and only, like I said, like 5 years worth of my earnings.
Yeah. That would be a lot.
I would consider that.
Okay.
Yeah, also because if I had that money, I could invest it now and be pretty good, ongoing. But, so yeah. Yeah. Disappear from the world. Yeah, I guess if my podcasts and all this could live on, I'd be okay with it. But if they wanted me to wipe entirely, then no.
But I feel like that's almost like taking ownership of someone, which is probably the...
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's also like the reality of a financial need, right?
Yeah.
And if it only bound me for a year or two and it secured me for longer than that financially, then I would have to consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel great. Like I've had some scenarios like this, and when they ended, even though it was financially lucrative, it felt like a weight, had gone. But that's just, I don't have the luxury of thinking I can't take that crazy number. It's like that crazy number is going to help me a lot.
Yeah.
So, like I was talking about the red flag thing, it's like sometimes you just have to compromise because capitalism. Yeah. So
I mean, it's difficult, and if you're, not used to it. I know a person who, like, who's escorting, and they were paid, like, every time they said no, their client paid them double, and they just kept on like being strung in. Is that how you say? Yeah. And it's of course really difficult, and they're like, no, this is it. I'm not doing that. Okay, double it. And then you end up in like astronomical numbers. And that's, it is very difficult.
End up doing with that scenario?
They essentially wanted, they essentially had a fantasy where they wanted her to be dead. It was a necrophilia kink. But they didn't tell that, so they were like, well, if you get in this ice bath, if you don't say anything, if you're quiet, if you just lie there, and if you pretend you're dead.
I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if we would have been communicated. But instead it was like, just
lay in this ice bath.
Yeah.
And then don't move.
Like, and then, no, thank you. And like, yeah, well, double it.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe I should start advertising on escort sites again.
It's like, often that's the thing. I think sometimes, this is super recent, but I went to an event yesterday, and I had the hottest girl ever come up and grab my tits.
Without asking.
Yeah. And it was so annoying, because I'm like, if you just would have asked me.
Yeah, now you've ruined this whole thing about you.
Ruined it. It was such a shame.
Yeah, it's like over the last however many years, I started getting hit on way too young, right? So we're talking like 25, 28 years ago. And I would say over the last 8 years or so, men have not been giving me any more grief, not much. But
what do you mean by
women, like catcalling me, stalking me on the street or whatever. It's the women that have been grabbing me in the bathrooms, that touch me non-consensually. Yeah.
That's
it's been a shift.
That's weird.
Yeah. I mean,
I've had that problem sometimes with avid trans femmes, because we have this, the sisterhood. But that also means that some people don't just, who are bad at consent already, just think like, we're similar. We should understand each other. I had another trans femme come up and grab my crotch once. I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. It's interesting, the navigation, the nuance, the understanding, how much that needs to still be integrated. Yeah.
Consent is cool. Right? As we told us in school. Or did we tell you that in school?
Oh, nobody talked about consent. Okay. Shall we do maybe one more?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So,
which one to choose?
So I can ask you, because we've, of course, gone through this before. But so the ones I have that we did talk about before was like how to charge. It was starting out what to be prepared for. It's like how to not give too much before the session and find the balance there. As well as how do you ask for more? And then how do you find the balance between mirroring and being your own persona? So which one of those would you like to go into? And I can just ask it again. Like it's completely unplanned.
I think we can maybe do all, but like quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do a little rapid fire.
I think, okay, a little rapid fire for the last
Okay,
3.
I'll set the timer.
Okay, ready.
No, but how do you ask for more? How do you get over the fear of,
Like monetarily?
Yeah, but I think that a lot of it's just come from a place where, if you get something, you're supposed to give something back. And how do you get out of that mindset, and especially professionally?
I mean, it's a service industry, so it is that like fair exchange. But at the same time, I think about maybe 9 years into my career, so I was a slow learner, I realized that the way that I am and the way that I can navigate space is already so unique that just stepping into a space with me is worth quite a bit of like money because you just don't get access, And that realization made me relax. Before I used to this is the list of this interests and this is what I'm going to hit. And then I have to do it. And then I have to get everything right. And it has to feel this level of intensity. But actually the way that I speak is more than enough for how people are going to weave into a space already. And also all the marketing and everything that's probably brought them to a point also before they even walk in the door, And so a lot of the work has kind of been done. And so I don't put so much stress on myself anymore. And everybody has a good time still. And so I think it's about navigating that understanding within yourself. And I think you're very similar also in your skill set and the way that you're navigating the world. I think there's not much there's a lot that's very unique and interesting and different to be around already.
I think that's incredibly empowering to think about, and just like,
to realize,
if you do want to be around a powerful, beautiful woman, you're gonna have to pay.
Yeah,
it's like,
or go hunting, enjoy. Who is like ready to pay attention? You're paying for the service of like attention and the space and maybe some of the tools and the skill of moving you. It's stuff that's fairly natural already. And I think I had to understand that for myself in order not to stress myself out, because I stress myself out quite a bit. And even though I charge a lot now, and I have always charged more than the market did, even when I was maybe 2 years into my career. Yeah. Because I just sort of tried and it sort of worked. But to make the transition from 700 to 1,000 was very difficult for me. Yeah. Even though I was completely booked out all the time and I could have done it earlier, it was just like, it's already so much money. It's like, it feels weird asking for another digit, But I just tried it. And then I was again completely booked out. And I thought, okay, so maybe this is like
keep on going,
a value that I didn't realize. And I'm just going to do it. And of course, it prices a lot of wonderful people out that I would have liked a session with. Yeah. But it's a business, and it's
after all, you have to.
And now I play privately. Yeah. So freebies.
You get that out of there,
Charity.
Very much.
But yeah, I think it's trial and error. It's understanding what we're bringing to the table and being comfortable with that.
Because I know the first time I was paid to have a dinner with someone, I was just like, it feels amazing, but it's also, there was this voice inside my head just going like, this feels weird, getting paid for my time. But so I really appreciate hearing that. It is very empowering to think that, I deserve it.
I mean, like, this is supposed to be my podcast, but you're the way that you're feeding back off of me and the way that you have been thoughtful and the way that you're moving things forward, it's quite rare that people are able to do that. So I think to understand that is something that you have is like, even at a dinner or even at a coffee or whatever, right? It's the value of our attention and our ability, and people who can't do that, who cannot answer you like and have a good question back, they need to pay for that.
Yeah, no, definitely. But so how do you charge? Because for me, starting out, because I of course don't want to, and I mean, I did a voice note for 2 seasons ago, I think. Yeah. With just like What's that about? Oh, about the like marketing and clickbaiting and stuff like that. And I do have this fear about, entering sex worker communities. I'm quite scared of alienating other sex workers. Because I know that I have been quite lucky with my OnlyFans and just with like how much success I've gained. But so I don't want to upset anyone. So entering this space, I want to charge reasonably. I want to charge what's worth for my time. But then I also I already have quite a big following. I'm already known as Qtee Foxx, and I mean that still has to account for something,
I think that you cannot control what, like I said to your voice note before, you can't control what everybody thinks. And I think if we get hung up on that, we're going to become quite lost. But it's good to understand, I think already, to be considerate of the fact that these things can create an effect. But I think the problem is capitalism and money. And how that's tied in with self-worth. I think that is the issue, and it's independent of what you're going to, I guess I wouldn't say independent, but that's the main issue, and that you're making a decision how to navigate that for yourself is just what you have to do to work within that system. And if people are going to feel like that affects them, it can't really be your problem. I think what we can do is we can talk about the value of money and the value of how we're pricing our services and why we might all be feeling this way about each other. I think that's valuable. But to suddenly think that I shouldn't do this because it might create this effect, I don't know how much that's going to change anything, So I guess, and I also think Doms charge way too low. In London, for example. Okay. Yeah, people are charging $250, $300, which they think is fair. But if an escort on average is charging maybe of a similar work ethic, 500, in terms of indie and doing your own marketing and all this, I don't see why we shouldn't be there at least. Yeah. But it's that escorts have worked together to make that happen, and we haven't, I think is more the thing that's sort of happening. Because, I mean, I've done all aspects of the industry except for stripping, and escorting is hard. And
you could get into it.
Huh?
You could get into it.
Which part?
Stripping.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I've been actually thinking about those clubs lately, but then it's a similar thing. It's you have Qtee Foxx, I have Eva Oh, it's how much, if I was to dance, and I don't know if it's worth my time because I could be making much more money doing what I'm already doing. Yeah, unless it's a genuine curiosity, and then I can start to build from little.
You could be Devo.
Look at that.
I have a lot of them.
Devo.
Your subs, they're, Eva owned.
So good. Oh, wow. Okay, we'll continue the brainstorming after this. But I think to focus on how other workers are feeling about it is valid and useful, but it's not the end of the conversation. Yeah. The end of the conversation is this is a problem on a societal level, and it's not us against each other. Yeah, I think undercutting can be a very real effect in terms of maybe people going towards you because you're just more affordable, right? But I think when you're starting to charge more, what people do end up saying is do they think that they're better than me? But it's it's a business, and I can price myself how I want to price myself. And actually, I'm seeing a lot less people because less people can afford me. So, it's where's the argument here?
I mean, I did that with live shows. I charged $600 for 20 minutes. And it's crazy. But the point of that is because I do less live shows. And they can be really fun. But a lot of them are weird.
Are these private one-on-one? Or?
Yeah, so just me jerking off on camera with some dude.
Yeah.
And it's I've had to add so many caveats. It used to be just like, oh, we'll enter the call. And I was like, you need to show up on this time. These are all the disclaimers. These are things you cannot do or say. If you have kinks, you need to disclose them. Because I've had people, you know, mid-call just like whip out, hey, I want you to call me this racial slur. And I'm like...
I wouldn't have taken the call.
No, I will not be doing race play with you like that, no. And I also had people go into scat, which is, if you're not prepared for it, it's quite a... I mean, I of course don't intend to kink shame, but it's, I think for a lot of people, that one can be quite a hard limit.
Of course.
So it's high to shoot for without like, you know, disclosing it.
Well, also like if they want you to participate in it, then like you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, definitely. He did not give me any heads up whatsoever. He just straight out of there, oh, can I see your ass? Cool. Can I taste your poop? And I was like...
You can also make it a fantasy, right? You can just say,
I played into it because he had paid well. And I was like, fine. But I was just like, once again, like that girl I talked about, if you just would have asked, if you would have communicated, you could have touched my tits. Yeah. So I guess that's the lesson.
Just ask.
Yeah. Just ask. They're good. Okay. No, but how do you find the balance between mirroring what a sub wants and being your own persona? Because, and just, I like doing both like mommy dummy stuff and also like very bully. And those are, you know, quite different roles to put on. And then I have myself somewhere in the middle. So how do you balance that?
I think when I was first starting, there was a huge period of navigating that balance. And I think I've only reached it very recently.
Okay.
So I think maybe don't put so much pressure on yourself to be like, oh, I'm handling this flawlessly. You know, one, which I get the feeling is hard. But how I went about it was, I was fairly confused for a while there. Like also because you're opening yourself up to territory that you haven't before. You're playing with things that you haven't thought about playing before. And you're realizing stuff about yourself that's like, whoa, is that me? Or is that the session? Or is that the client? And it takes, I guess, and when I was working in the dungeon, I would do up to 8 sessions a day, you know, so there was no time to think. I think when now I do like a session or 2 a week, there's more time to digest and to think about where those boundaries lie and be okay with it blurring a little bit. And actually, that was nice, and move on. So I think maybe some periods of reflection are useful, and processing, like speaking about things, not just internalizing everything like with other workers or however. And just knowing that things are going to be murky.
Yeah.
At first, for sure, and maybe forever a little bit at least. Because it's intimate spaces in other people and ourselves, you know, and these things just blur. Yeah. But how do I get my satisfaction out of it? For me, it's more, as long as they're respecting my boundaries and I'm playing with the things that I want to play and I'm not going too far away from that.
Yeah.
Because then it gets dangerous because I don't know what I'm doing, perhaps. But, I'm fine. I'm delivering a service. And then if I want to tick things off, if I know a client for a long time and I want to try something, I'll let them know and then we can maybe integrate it. Or I just do it in my personal time. You know, it's just like, I am the provider in this paid for time. And you respect me and I'm cool. We can do stuff that I'm not necessarily turned on with. It's fine. But you will think that. Goodbye. And then make sure that I'm getting things how I want in my own time. And yeah.
But do you feel like you're always the same type of dom during your sessions? Do you feel like you're...
No, it depends so heavily on how the person is in front of me. And it can be the same person, but they maybe had a bad day or they're feeling really like vulnerable or something. And I think I pick up on these things quite a lot. And my voice changes, how I move changes, the intensity of how I touch them changes. I'm always my capacity, but it will come out in a different expression.
I think that's truly fascinating. I will say how you're able to pick up on that and just, I don't want to say just mirror it, but just, play off it. And not just in a play sense, but like overall.
Yeah. For me, it's very important that it's an erotic and intriguing scenario for my client, and enough for me. And so I will do many things to make that happen. Change my voice, change my tone, change what we're going to do, everything. Yeah. Because I want that result. So I'll do the things to get that. But everyone's different. Yeah. It's totally cool to be one like character, and that's your thing. And the people who like that will gravitate towards it over time.
I think I will definitely lean more into bully. That's one I enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also less, I think it's safer for me because whenever I do like mommy dommy stuff, or pet play and those type of things, I give a lot of care and I give a lot of nurture, and it can be difficult to like, differentiate between what's my own care and what's my own.
Yes.
And I can also, I know I've done that with people, and they have like the session is over and they no longer seek my care and attention. And that can feel like rejection.
Oh, interesting. When it's just them holding boundaries.
Yeah. And especially if it's for like private things.
Okay. Then I get that. Yeah.
No, but so with that, I've definitely had like girls who I've given, 10 out of 10 top game to, given it my all. And then they come and they're like, okay, we're done now. And I'm like, hey, I need aftercare too.
Yeah.
You need to, be nice to me. Thank you.
Yeah. And then they understand?
No. So I drop, if that happens, I drop them.
I guess maybe that's something you can establish before also.
Yeah, I think it's something I will definitely learn more.
Yeah. Say that when we get to that point, I'm going to need you to step up also.
I mean, there's so much learning to do. It's really exciting.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
But so last one then.
Okay.
How do you, because you talked about time wasters before, but how much do you give before the session? Because you want someone to be intrigued and want to see you, but you also don't want them to just like jerk off and come and then be done and delete, the email thread.
Like I've mentioned to you, I think that you can usually close a session as in like make sure the booking is solid, especially if you have a profile already. You can get a deposit and set a time and a place within 3-4 emails. I think that is, and you already have an established persona, I know that it's going to have a different name and everything, but there's a trail, and so people can trust you and they can get their shit together and do what you ask of them. I think that having some sort of website or some sort of presence that's very clear with how you session and the tone of how it will be is helpful for people. And I think once you have those things, this trust, this like idea of what they're walking into, you shouldn't be bothering to waste time. If you don't have those things, then you're probably going to need to chat. They need to feel more like you're somebody actually on the end. Maybe you even need to do a call or something. But for me, so many damn interviews, so much content, like many years. Like if you don't want to pay a deposit within 4 emails, then I'm sorry. It's just, I don't need to do more work right now. Yeah. But maybe at the beginning, I would be happy to text them for a while and to do a quick call so that they know that I am real. Or maybe not even take a deposit, back in the day when I wasn't even advertising with Face or anything. Yeah, right. So it depends where you're at with it, I think, how much you want to invest or not. But I don't reckon you would need to do much with what you have built already. I
mean, I know how to do branding. So I'm definitely gonna.
Yeah. What was it? Eva Oh, not obsessed?
No, I said if you have a sub, they're Eva owned.
Eva owned. The brand.
Yeah. This is what I do.
Eva owned.
Diva O could also be a drag.
Oh yeah, I could do a drag act. Or maybe I can loan it to somebody and they can be a drag version of me.
I mean, sissy play right there. You can do it. Now you get to be Diva Oh.
Yeah, I find sissy play kind of potentially conflicting too in some ways for reasons that you expressed. Although not as my lived experience, but as like a framework I understand.
Yeah.
But now I just make them into me. Yeah, I dress them if they fit enough. My clothes, my coloring, yeah, my makeup, yeah, and that's quite amusing.
Hey, if I ever need to do someone's makeup, that session is going to be 3 hours. I'm actually a makeup artist as well.
Oh, okay.
But
That's
so,
why you always have such nice different stuff.
But so, I would take the time.
Oh,
I'd be like, foundation matching.
Yeah,
and
no, you could do like a whole experience. Yeah. Definitely.
Oh no, this is not good enough. Wipe it off. We'll start over.
Yeah. I mean, but you're saying you don't really want to lean into that sector, right? But I mean, that's definitely a whole other group of people who will pay to access that wardrobe and to have a full day, maybe even a photo shoot or something. That's a whole different sector of our business.
I mean, I do that with other trans femmes, but then it's of course supposed to be gender affirming.
Yeah.
And I really adore doing that. And then I also, because I think that is of course it's not one-to-one, but it's pretty close to the like getting to be in my presence. That's what they value.
Oh yeah.
Getting to be seen by me as someone who has transitioned for longer and who they view as, I don't know, being good at it.
Or comfortable in it or having lived it. It's very inspiring as to what could be possible for them, I think.
So yeah, that's when, I told you about the ones who end up crying. That's usually has been that. And that just me going, hey, you're doing amazing. And I've been where you are. And a couple of years from now, I know how happy and comfortable you're going to be in yourself.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, it is.
So I think that's a good place to end, me tearing up.
Well,
so thank you for listening. And if you have nothing else to share for now, Miss...
Wow. Yeah. I'm going to be on social media.
Yes.
Miss Juni.
Yes.
That's June in Swedish. Because
we're sticking with the branding.
Yeah. The Americans love it. I told you.
Yeah, I think most people are pretty into that. But Miss Juni on the Teakink podcast, just kicking off their professional dominatrix career. I think it's going to be fun.
Right.
So thank you for listening. Speak to you next time.